Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I am Barry P. Cook. I want to talk about the latest episode of Batwoman, the Season 3 premiere, called Mad as a Hatter, for reasons that will become quite obvious momentarily. It starts off where we see someone finding the Hatter's hat on the bank of the river, I guess, where many, if not all, of the Bat trophies, as you might call them, were dumped or thrown or wound up landing at the end of the Season 2 finale. And this person takes the hat and puts it up for sale online, where it is bought by an individual who, it would seem, has a fetish with Alice in Wonderland, and by extension, Alice, the character in Batwoman. A news broadcast lets us know that Alice will not be facing any charges. She's not going to stand trial, but will instead just be going to Arkham, which we kind of already knew because she was there at the end of Season 2. Batwoman busts up a marijuana grow operation of some kind. I guess it's not legal in Gotham. Alongside Batwing, who somehow knows how to fight really well. I'm not talking about brawling, I'm talking about spinning kicks and, moves that the average person wouldn't know. He may, of course, have learned them from Batwoman, so there's that, but it's not explained. Anyway, we see that Sophie has been hooking up with various women in various locations. We see Alice in Arkham Asylum reading a postcard to herself from Metropolis about how the writer of the postcard is not going to give up on her and vows to get her out of there. And we then see that she's talking about her father, who has been sending her postcards addressed to Beth Kane, which I think is very cool. I think it's cool, the idea that he would correspond with her, and that the things he was saying were very nice about her, very complimentary, very supportive, very encouraging. And we also see that she's hung all of these postcards up on the wall with the writing side facing outward so that she can see it. And that she seems to really treasure the postcards quite a bit, which again is very cool because Beth is an innocent person, or at least was before all the crazy crap happened to her. And it's the Alice persona that sort of took over, or that she developed out of trauma with the help of that crazy woman from the island that did all the bad stuff, and that is, less of a good person. But even in that state, Beth Alice has some humanity, as her father pointed out at the end of Season 2. And it not only shows itself from time to time, but is really important to nurture. And him writing to her, saying encouraging things, does exactly that. And I want to see this character redeemed. I want to see Beth come back and maybe retain a little bit of Alice, because Alice has an enigmatic quality. She has a kooky quality. She has an off-the-cuff quality that can be fun and that can even be helpful in situations. So I hope that's retained. The problem is that it's too big of a part of her at the moment. So I want to see her retain a little part of it, but I want to see her come back to being Beth. Mary grudgingly visits Alice in prison to keep a promise to their dad. And it turns out that Mary is also about to graduate from medical school, which is very cool. But then we quickly go over to the new Hatter, who's gone full Mad Hatter. He's got the outfit on and the hat and the whole thing. He's going looking for Alice in the sewers and ends up mind controlling some guy with the hat, seemingly to his surprise. And he makes the guy kill his friend on video even. Apparently there's a doodad in the hat that allows the wearer to exercise mind control, which he didn't seem to know, but soon figured out. We then visit Renee Montoya, aka Question, in the DC comic verse. At least at some point she becomes Question. And when we see her, she's finding out about Hatter, and she goes to his latest crime scene, or the crime scene that we just saw. Team Batwoman learns that they can disrupt the Hat's broadcasts. So they learn about him and that he has the hat, and they realize by going through Bruce's information, his journals, whatever, that there's a way to disrupt the Hat's ability to control minds. Ryan visits Alice to ask her what she's planning with the Hatter because she assumes there's a connection, but she says she doesn't know him, which of course is true, and that she says, I'm just a girl standing in front of a psychiatric ward asking it not to melt her brain, which I thought was very cool. Hatter, meanwhile, infiltrates the medical school graduation ceremony, well, the setup for it anyway, and he mind controls the security team. Sophie learns something mind-blowing about the doctor who was present at Ryan's birth. Apparently, Ryan's birth mother was very wealthy and paid this doctor $2 million to cover up the fact that she had given birth. Then we see Mary, who runs into the Hatter at graduation, and he mind controls her to change her speech to one that's critical of the medical profession. Then we see that he's apparently subdued the head of the medical school, and he's forcing Mary to remove his organs one at a time until he dies. Team Batwoman decides that they need to break Alice out of Arkham and get her to talk the guy down. Just before this happens, we see Alice in therapy, and she's telling her therapy group that her father has promised to get her out of there. And the doctor who's running the therapy session tells her that because her father is himself incarcerated, no one is coming to rescue her. At which point the door gets kicked in and Batwoman comes in to rescue her, quote unquote rescue her, which was pretty funny. We then cut over to Batwing, who apparently can fly with rocket boots, and he goes to a rooftop to try to connect with the Wayne satellite so that he can broadcast a signal into the building that will protect the whole audience from the mind control Hat. Alice is reluctant to go with Batwoman because she says her father's going to rescue her. And it's at this point that we sadly find out that what she had been treating as postcards from her dad were in fact just random news clippings and magazine clippings that she only imagined were postcards from her dad. And this hit me because I'm somebody who likes a redemption story. I'm somebody who likes a character that's in need of redemption because they've got some bad stuff going on. They're not behaving in a good way or carrying on in a good way, but they over time come to see that they can be more, that they can be better. We saw this with Ryan. This is exactly what happened with Ryan. And during last season, I kept seeing signs that maybe this is where they were going to go with Alice, because they definitely flirted with it. They definitely flirted with making her a good guy, or at least an anti-hero versus someone who's bad. I think she even calls herself an anti-hero in one episode, and I think I mentioned it at the time. So this whole plot where she's embedded with Team Batwoman and is going to be helping them is, I just couldn't be happier with that. I think I even said last season, I bet you at some point she's going to be redeemed or redeem herself or start being a better person and get back to more of her Beth persona, and then eventually end up working with Team Batwoman. And that's exactly what they're doing. And I couldn't be happy with that. I think it's an excellent choice. And I'm thrilled to see it play out in the coming weeks, because I think that Ryan and Alice have great chemistry as characters. I just think it's going to be fantastic. So this hit me hard because a lot of times what happens is you have characters in this journey and they make progress, and then something goes wrong and they have a setback. And the setback can do different things. It can make them stop trying and be stuck where they are, which is the lesser of two evils, because the other option is it can send them backwards to where they go back a couple of steps and go back to being more, bad. So I didn't like that moment for that reason, because I don't want to see that happen to the character. I also have come to really feel for this character, and I've come just as I've come to feel for Mary, and just as I've come to feel for Ryan. And it just was heartbreaking that the fact of the matter is that her father isn't writing to her. Yeah, he's in prison. He could write to her. He could say encouraging things. Clearly, based on his speech at the end of last season, he does care for her. He does want to see good things for her. So why isn't he writing to her? Or is he in there blocking it? I don't know. But that she wasn't actually getting those postcards from him that she so obviously treasured. and which was giving her hope and a reason to, aspire, was just heartbreaking. And we're going to see how it affects the character going forward. Anyway, Batwoman convinces her to go with her to help her by saying that she'll let her go if she does. Hatter ends up disabling the signal blocker and orders the graduates to choke themselves with their own stethoscopes. Now, something happened in this episode that I didn't understand at first, but at the end it kind of makes sense. Twice in this episode, Batwing gets attacked or is hit during a fight, and the suit pretty much shuts down right away, like it was made of paper mache or something. And it just seemed pretty useless to me. And I was like, what is the point of this? But it gets explained later. Alice arrives on scene in full Alice garb, and which was a glorious thing to see, by the way. And after, I can't believe I'm saying that, I hated this character after the first few episodes of season 1. But I am just over the moon enamored with this character now, because they've done some good things with it. They've evolved the character. And I've always said, even when I hated the character, that the actress did a phenomenal job, and she just does. And I was just over the moon to see her back in her Alice garb. But anyway, she butters up the guy and asks him to release the graduates. He resists at first, but then he goes along with it. But then Alice disables his hat with a device that she was carrying, and he passes out for some reason. I'm not sure what that is. As she then tries to make good on Ryan's promise by attempting to flee, Ryan apprehends her and says, "Yeah, did you really think I meant that?" Again, I thought that was unfortunate, because they're not giving her a chance. They need to give her a chance. And Ryan has to remember that people gave her a chance. And I think she will. And the reason they have to give her a chance is because it will be them not giving her a chance that prevents her from evolving, and that pushes her backwards, which they don't want. Whether they care that she becomes a good person or not, they surely don't want her going backwards, because that's bad for the city. So I just hope they realize that sooner rather than later. But yeah, they do apprehend her, and she goes back to jail, I guess, or Arkham or whatever. Mary ends up giving her real speech in front of Ryan, Sophie, and Luke back home. And she points out that, in her view, the Hatter did have some good points when he said some negative things about the medical profession. Ryan decides not to track down her mother, even though she had the opportunity to after Sophie had looked into it, because she's happy with the family that she has, and she doesn't want to find out that her mother isn't who she might have hoped she was. And I thought that was a good call. We do, however, end up seeing her mother before the episode ends, and she's told that someone has been digging into her existence and so forth, and she's not pleased about it. And apparently she is very wealthy. She's some big mogul or something. So that's I guess it's gonna play a part in the season, even though they had Ryan deciding not to pursue it. We see Luke taking the suit apart, the Batwing suit, to try to figure out why it so easily malfunctions, and he accidentally discovers that his father made himself into an AI, or put an AI in the suit and gave it his voice. So he's going to be interacting with, his dad, quote unquote, as an AI in the suit the next time and every time he goes out. So that should be interesting. He really has been trying to cope with his father's death, and this should be a good thing for him. Mary gets a gift delivered to her, and she opens it up to find that it's a white lab coat with her name on it, and that it's from Kate. So that was very cool as well. And as the episode closes, we have a scene where Renee Montoya lights the bat signal. And when Batwoman shows up in a very cool way, Montoya tells her that Alice gave her the list of all the bat artifacts that are missing, as well as her identity, in exchange for her freedom, and that she wants Ryan and Alice to work together to round them all up, or she's going to shut down Batwoman's operation, at which point, Ryan reluctantly agrees to those terms. Now, Alice isn't exactly free. She's going to be wearing an ankle bracelet, but she's out of the asylum, and within a certain, I guess, range, can come and go as she pleases. So, yeah, and as I said, I am thrilled to death with this setup. I think it's going to be great. I think it's great that they have, regardless of Alice being involved or not, I think it's great that they've decided on this premise where the team is going to chase down these artifacts, because it's going to make it more episodic. mean, there's going to be obviously the overarching serialization where, okay, we have to find the artifact, but each week is going to be an artifact. And TV to me is best when it's episodic. So I think it's just going to focus them in. It's going to take away all these episodes that were padding, that went off in different directions because they had an overall narrative, but it didn't really fill 20 episodes, so they had to go in weird directions. And that happens a lot with serialized TV. And I think this is going to be better because there's no reason they can't come up with 20 items or 18 items and spend 2 episodes on one item. You know what I'm saying? So I am so hopeful that this season is going to be better. And on top of that, it's going to deal, right? These things that are down are going to deal with individual Bat villains. We already saw Hatter. We're going to see Killer Croc. And this is, they started doing this last season. They brought in Nas. They brought in, references to Joker. They had, I can't remember, but there were references to Scarecrow. So they did the whole, they started going down this path of, okay, let's really work in the cadre of villains that this comic book has, which is what they should have done in season 1, but didn't do it all, barely. So I'm thrilled that they're doing this. We're going to start seeing some Bat villains. Killer Croc, I mean, they're not even holding back. They're going Killer Croc, because it's a makeup and the whole thing. So it's, I'm really looking forward to this season. I can't wait for the episodes. And season 1, I never would have thought I'd be here. Believe me when I tell you, for season 2, I was like, there's no way this is going to be any good. There's no way they're going to be able to switch out the main character and not kill the show. There's no way they're going to be able to tie in all the characters that were around the main character who were her family and work them into the story, or her ex and work them into the story. Now, Jacob is not going to be on the show, the father, either not as a regular or not at all. I can't remember. So he didn't fit in too well last season, and I think they realized, you know what, he doesn't really fit. And that's fine, because missing him isn't going to make a big difference. I would like to see him play a part in interacting with Alice. Maybe they'll do that a little bit. I don't know. But I didn't think they'd be able to do it. But they did. They wove Mary in. They developed Mary. Mary is an excellent character. Didn't think, she was like a nothing in season 1. Throughout season 2, they developed her. They made her great. She's just amazing as a character to me. I like Sophie a lot. I never saw that going anywhere, but they did a great job with Sophie. Those 3 women work together so well as actresses and so well as characters. They just gel. There's chemistry. I can't get over how great it is. And adding Alice to the mix, I am beyond psyched that all of these things have happened and are happening. It's the best CW show going right now. It's better than, assuming that they do this, assuming that it goes the way I think it's going to go and the way I hope it's going to go, this has the potential to be the best CW show going. Better than the recent seasons of the last few seasons of Arrow. Better than Flash, even at its best. And I'm a Flash guy, so it's a lot for me to say that. Definitely better than the last 4 seasons of Legends of Tomorrow. So definitely better than Supergirl. So I just can't wait. I can't wait for the rest of this season. I'm hoping they won't disappoint me. Only time will tell. But I'll be back with a review of the next episode. Until then, my friends, as always, I wish you peace and long life.